very much. Thank you for those kind words. Mark Wayne, thank you to Jim O'Neill, to Tom Jodesnik, to Marty McCary, and to Wendy as well. Thank you for that, for sharing your story. It's with a heavy heart that I'm announcing that the conspiracy theorists were right again. COVID mRNA vaccines caused a litany of injuries, including but not limited to turbo cancer, heart failure, extreme blood clotting, and perhaps gayness. That's a chicken and egg problem that we're still investigating. The implications are substantial, and there's no easy way to say this. Anthony Fauci is a goblin, and if you weren't gay prior to taking the vaccine, there's a massive chance that your sudden desire to binge the Bravo channel and watch Tim Walz rallies isn't an accident.
Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. June 24th, 2026. Let's get into it. First off, it's 180s today. 98 degrees is what my car was registered. Do I look like I might catch on fire? I feel like it. Oh my God. But I had to get out because they're forecasting rain Wednesday and Thursday. So anyway, let's get into the video. So we got that one up front. Before I talk about things to help you out, let's get another video. This is a video of the AIPAC senators. Let's watch that now.
Times of Israel had an article where they explain, quote, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu plans to use pro-Israel senators and right-wing media personalities to influence the terms of a final agreement between the U.S. and Iran. And so, here I'll show the track AIPAC for some of these senators right now. Like Bill Cassidy's taking at least 500. These are always at least guys because they get a lot more into their super PACs. But $536,000 from AIPAC. He's the guy who said Reagan would be rolling around in his grave, which makes no sense because Reagan's the guy who withdrew from Lebanon after Hezbollah killed a couple hundred Marines. So Reagan would have done the same exact thing as Trump, at least. Ted Cruz has gotten $1.4 million. Tom Tillis has gotten $405,000. And these guys are all current. Roger Wicker, $533,000. And these guys are all currently attacking Trump. The rule was you never attack Trump. Look at this. Joe Kent left the administration and he's a heretic and he should be destroyed. But yet, when Netanyahu snaps his fingers and says, hey, pro-Israel senators that are pretending to be Americans attack, they attack Trump and there's no consequences.
All right. Now that we got that out of the way, before we get on to depressing topics, I always try to help you out up front in these videos. Oh yeah, hit that like button and subscribe. I am the Burn channel on Rumble and BitChute. I am the Burn Report on YouTube. I have been, unfortunately, permanently suspended from X. I don't know what I did wrong. I did file an appeal, but I did it the wrong way. I just immediately appealed it, assuming that there was some sort of mistake. And they rejected that appeal. So then I went back and I reworded my appeal and I wanted to resubmit it. And they're saying that you've already had your appeal. So I guess we're permanently gone from X. Boy, we had thousands of followers up there too. That's really kind of depressing in a way. It kind of reminds me of Parler. Back in 2000, what was it, 2020, excuse me. I had 56,000 followers on Parler. And we know what happened to that. It just got obliterated in one day. Man, I tell you, me and social media, we don't seem to get along very well. I tell you what I think I might have done wrong. Let's so that you don't do it if you're on X, because it is a good tool for getting the news. I was putting links to my posts in my replies to people, and I only did it. I don't see where that's wrong, but I only did it when the topic was relevant. So if I had a video about Tulsi Gabbard, and they were talking about Tulsi Gabbard, I would give them a reply something, I thought was important in whatever they said. And I put a link back to my comments on Tulsi Gabbard. So I don't see where that's wrong, but that's the only thing I can think of. Maybe they thought I was spamming or something. I've gone through the rules. So now I'm working. I tell you what, I'm going to miss Grok. Grok, I mean, even though he was an AI, I tell you what, he was like a friend. We worked together on that video studio day after day after day. And so now I'm on Chat GPT. I've only used it a little bit. Seems pretty damn good. Or as good as Grok anyway, so far. I mean, there's things I haven't tried on Chat GPT that I could do with Grok. So I guess I'll find out. If you know any other good AIs, leave a comment to this video. Because the only one I know is Chat GPT. I'm sure there's other ones. I'll ask Chat GPT what other. So maybe we'll get up on another platform sooner or later. Of course, I am that cybersecurity guy on YouTube also. I always put my videos there. But that channel is shadow banned on YouTube. By the way, for once in my life, I got to give YouTube credit. YouTube in the past, I almost got banned back during the COVID days. You couldn't say anything about masks. You couldn't say anything about the jab. God forbid if you said anything against the vaccines or any of that stuff. Because that's how I got 2 strikes. But at least on YouTube, they give you a strike and say, you violated our rules. And it's hard not to violate the YouTube rules because they're constantly changing. I've noticed a lot of people talking about topics that you couldn't talk about before on YouTube. So you never know what the rules are going to be. And nobody has time to sit there and reread the rules over and over and over again. By the way, I am the only person that has been out here in over a week. There's not a single footprint in the sand. No tire prints from a mountain bike. Nothing. We are a long ways from civilization. So if I have a heat stroke, ain't nobody coming. Unless I can get on the phone and call somebody. Which is a possibility. That's why I always keep it with me. Oh, man. All right, let's continue along on things that I think it might help you. The peroxide, I talked about that in a previous video. Hydrogen peroxide. I had a huge bug problem in my house, like fruit flies flying all over the damn place. And then when I finally got rid of the fruit flies somewhat, there was these smaller insects, like what's been buzzing me today, all in the house. And like I said, my bug guy, he had told me that they more than likely come up through the drains. So I had put some organic drain cleaner down in those drains. Didn't do much good. But then I saw that Amish guy, and he said put hydrogen peroxide down your drains. And of course I went out and bought $45 worth of hydrogen peroxide from Amazon so that I got a supply of it. Anyway, it worked. It worked. The bugs, they're all gone. So the bug guy was right. The bugs were coming up through the drains, and the hydrogen peroxide got them. The other thing I wanted to tell you that I think this is a good idea. I'll have to talk to my air conditioning guy. You do know that you have to flush your air conditioning every now and then that goes out. If you don't have a service guy come into your house about twice a year, you got to be sure and do it yourself. And you can't put Clorox down in there. Vinegar, somebody had told me vinegar is okay. Of course, vinegar and hot water. But you know what I thought of? I put some hydrogen peroxide down to flush that outlet for my air conditioning. And I'm just assuming all air conditioners are the same. That water they have a valve that goes to the outside where the water gets dumped out of the air conditioning system, but that can develop algae and things like that. God, spider web. Damn it. What was the other piece of advice? Oh yeah, I was going to talk about watermelon. I was up till like 4 in the morning cutting up this huge watermelon. Unfortunately, it's been sitting on my counter for about 6 days, so it's a little overripe. And I'll never eat all of that watermelon before it goes bad. But you can freeze watermelon. And I was watching a YouTube channel, And the woman, she showed me how to do it. You put the blocks of watermelon on a tray, and you put that tray in your freezer, let them freeze, and then you take those blocks and you can put them in whatever you're going to put them in, like a bag or something. Because if you just put them all together, they're going to freeze together, you know, rather than having, you know, crunchy little frozen watermelon snacks. You know, you just have a big gob of watermelon that you froze. So that's the little tip on the watermelon. I'm sure I had something else I was going to talk about. Let's just get into the video. So one of the things that Ben Gvir, oh, I know the other one. Let's talk about this first. Ted Postal came on, you know, I was over in the war in 2003, okay? And we thought that the Patriots were protecting us down there in Al Jaber in Kuwait at that air base. And so that's why I thought no Scuds got through. Well, anyway, Ted Postal was on Daniel Davis Deep Dive. I encourage you to follow his channel on YouTube. And he's a rocket expert, okay, or a missile expert, either way you want to look at it. And he was talking about the Patriot. And we're talking about the third generation of Patriot missile here. We're not talking about the first or second. And he was talking about that they are only below 5% effective in knocking any sort of missile or, you know, out of the air. They are very effective, but they're $4 million a piece or something like that. I don't know. They cost a hell of a lot. You know, they're very effective at knocking drones out of the air, but you're going to waste a $4 million Patriot every time there's a $10,000 drone coming in on your location? But they're completely ineffective against the missiles. And so that means that every one of those missiles that I showed you in previous two videos, they all hit their targets. None of them were shot out of the air for the most part. Maybe one or two got damaged or whatever. But then the warheads continue on to the ground even if you damage the vehicle coming in, because it's coming in like a ballistic missile. Anyway, very interesting show. Definitely go check that out. I just never knew how vulnerable we were down there in Kuwait, and that explains why all our bases are shutting down in the Middle East, because I imagine Iran just destroyed them completely. Whew. I don't know. Looks like we're going to go back to war sooner or later. I can't believe what Trump said over the weekend. He threatened, and I don't agree with John Mearsheimer. Trump said that he was going to kill the negotiators before they could get back to Iran, and that he was going to obliterate Iran unless they opened up the Strait of Hormuz, while J.D. Vance was negotiating. And I think I talked about that in the previous video. But then and the reason why I don't think there can be peace, Ben Gvir, you know, the guy next to Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, he came out and he said they're going to destroy all of Lebanon. And they're going to blow up every building, kill every single person in Lebanon. That's what Ben Gvir said. They're going to Gazify Lebanon. So if you don't think that they're doing it, let's look at this video. Oh, this is by the way, this is an educational video. I encourage you to get to the end of this. You know, one thing I never thought of, if you're in a situation where bombs are blowing up around you and everything, this guy taped up his windows to keep the glass from flying around when, you know, a bomb hits nearby and blows those windows out. Probably not a bad idea to do. Maybe during a hurricane, huh? If you have I've got hurricane-proof windows, so I wouldn't have to do it. But if you just have regular windows, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Well, let's watch that video now.
این چسب‌ها هم که دقیقا میزنم جای چسب‌های جنگ قبلیه، جنگ 12 روزه اسرائیل که به اون حمله شد سال پیش. این انفجار زیاد داشتیم، شیشه ها میشکست که همه گفتن باید چسب بزنیم، چسب زدیم بعد کندیم، حالا دوباره باید بزنیم. من انقدر چسب زدم.
Okay, so that was a pretty good video. But if you don't think that Israel is flattening Lebanon, well, I've put together a little montage for you. This is 3 videos of Lebanon being destroyed. Enjoy. Let's watch that now. There you go. That's Lebanon getting destroyed. If you couldn't tell, I'm moving really slow. Here, let's get this tree cluster on the video. Isn't that cool? That kind of looks cool, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of nature on the video. Oh, a lot of countries now are putting out Lego videos. We got one from Russia now that it's not going to be in this video, but I got one from China. I thought they did a good job. Maybe they're getting with the Iranian Lego video makers. Let's watch that China video now.
Turn the television off for a minute. Listen to regular people talking in kitchens, garages, factories, gas stations. People tired of hearing one story from politicians and another story from their own eyes. This ain't about left or right. It's about trust. And a whole lot of Americans feel like they lost it.
They say freedom, but people feeling lost.
Yeah.
They say truth, but files stay locked in drawers.
Every week another headline, another war. Meanwhile, working people can't afford to stop.
And everybody asking what we fighting for.
What happened to no more wars?
What happened to protecting the poor?
Now the whole country looking unsure. Yeah. People watched Epstein die and never got clear answers. Years later, the question's still getting bigger. Millions of pages, names blacked out, documents missing. And Americans wondering who got protected. Polls showing most people think information still hidden. Not conspiracy pages, regular citizens. Republicans, Democrats, independents.
Everybody feeling like
Something incomplete. Then suddenly every channel talking about Iran. Missiles, threats, breaking news banners every night. And some Americans started connecting timing. Because the Epstein story was growing fast before the war. That's not a foreign talking point. That's what ordinary people online been saying themselves. Congressmen saying it publicly. Podcasters asking why the story disappeared overnight. Trump said no more endless wars during campaigns. A lot of people believed him because they were exhausted. 20 years of Afghanistan. Iraq still haunting military families. Veterans coming home broken while contractors got rich. Then another conflict starts, and people asking what changed. Joe Rogan questioned it openly, saying people still don't fully understand why it happened, and whether the public got the full truth. That matters, because millions trusted those promises.
Working class voters
Trusted those promises.
factory towns trusted those promises.
Now confusion spreading through the same communities, and while regular people
Arguing online,
groceries rising,
rent rising,
insurance rising,
people working overtime just to survive.
parents skipping meals so kids can eat properly. Meanwhile, television debates feel disconnected
From reality,
because regular Americans worry about bills first.
Wasn't that cool? All right, let's switch topics. We've talked enough about war and Lebanon. We're not even going to hit on Ukraine in this video. Does that make you happy? Any of you Putin haters? We're not even going to talk about Ukraine. But let's. Sorry, the camera keeps tilting on me. Let's get on to the what's all over X now. I still have, even though I'm suspended, I still have they call it read-only mode, so I can kind of scroll through some posts from time to time. I mean, I can't, like I said, I can't work with Brock. I can't post. I can't reply. Nothing like that. But anyway, this is Dr. John Campbell on. He's talking about this woman who's testifying before Congress, and. It's terrible to say this about a woman. She doesn't have nowhere ass from a hole in the ground, man. Let's watch that video.
He knows this. So obviously you'd expect Dr. Julie Graylow, medical doctor, Professor Emeritus of the University of Washington School of Medicine, Medical Oncology and Global Health, to be absolutely all over this. Let's get a reply, shall we?
That's why it was so safe. Was that your understanding and your belief that the injection stays in the arm?
I think the effects of the injection are total body. So the immune response, the reaction.
No, but I mean the actual. So you're aware the modified mRNA was encapsulated in the lipid nanopart, correct? Right. So do you believe that package stayed in the arm as we were told it was going to do?
I can't reliably comment on
so
that.
How can she not know it's systemically distributed? How can she not know that? I mean, no one's saying she's being disingenuous or deliberately obtuse here or deliberately trying to cover some truth that she knows full well. No one's saying that. But she appears genuinely not to know. How can this be, Professor Emeritus, University of Washington School of Medicine, Fellow of the American College of Physicians, Fellow of the American Society of Clinical Oncology? How can she not know that? And Senator Johnson, former golf caddy, hay baler and dishwasher, does know that.
My God, can you believe that people like that are working in your government? I mean, how can we have... I mean, I contracted in D.C. for 5 years, so it shouldn't surprise me. But at least the people I contracted with, they were somewhat intelligent. So I thought. Okay, let's get Senator Ron Johnson. You know, like I told you, there are no good Democrats in Congress, but there are a few good Republicans. And I consider Ron Johnson a good Republican. And he's talking about pediatric deaths from the jab, I believe. I'll let the video speak for itself. I don't know anything about that. This is him right now.
Without folks like you on Capitol Hill, we would just be in the dark all the time. Tell me about this report and how concerning it is to you, because if it's 10, what's the real number?
Yeah, my main concern is it dramatically understates the problem here. You know, in any of these analyses, you're going to have doctors doing the analysis. And by the way, it's very difficult to get autopsies during the pandemic. Medical professors didn't want to know. So there are very few autopsies. So the NIH or CDC, FDA reviewed 96 autopsies of children and came up with about 10 they thought were possible or probable. Now, from my standpoint, when you look at the data, it was safety signals were screaming at you. Best way to describe this is currently on VAERS, you have almost 1.7 million total adverse events. You have 39,000 deaths. These are worldwide figures. Of the 39,000 deaths, 24% occurred on the day of vaccination or within 1 or 2 days. So the FDA officials always say, well, yeah, but VAERS doesn't prove causation, and that's true. But again, if you were perfectly healthy and you went and got a jab and you died that day or within 1 or 2 days, I know what I would be blaming. Now, there may be cases where people were in bad health anyway, and that just tipped them over, and really the cause of death was something else. But the bigger revelation, Steve, was what we unveiled 3 weeks ago, which is still not being covered by the mainstream media. And that is that on March 1st of 2021, Peter Marks, the head of CBER, the division within EPA that approves vaccines and then surveils the safety of them after approval, was briefed that their algorithm that analyzed the VAERS safety system was going to hide and mask safety signals. 26 days later, he had a data run on a new algorithm that unmasked. They had 49 cases of extreme masking revealed, 25 safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, different types of strokes. Next 3 months, they got similar type of data runs with the new algorithm, showing more safety signals, more different types of sudden death. They didn't pin a badge on Dr. Anna Scharsman, who's the data mining expert that showed them this. They shunned her off to the side. They ordered her to cease and desist, and they decided to use the algorithm that they knew that they were warned was going to hide safety signals, and they're clinging to that to this day. Peter Marks has gone off to work for Eli Lilly, and the entire world is in the state of denial, basically. The COVID cartel remains as powerful as it always was. I cannot get the story broadcast. I cannot get an interview on CBS, ABC, NBC, PBS, MS Now, CNN. I challenged Jake Tapper. I was on a show, want to talk about something else. I said, Jake, I really want to talk about this. I'm going to send you the report. Read it. Have me on. Haven't been invited back yet.
All right, we got that. Now the next one, we got a study out of Japan that I hadn't heard of, but somebody put this up in a post on X. Let's watch the Japanese study on vaccine injuries.
There's been, I'm not sure if you've seen, it's just coming out of Japan at the moment. It's only semi in print. But in Japan, they were able to take 20 million people and work out who had the vaccine and who didn't. And they were able to show highly significant that all the excess deaths were in the vaccinated group, that the non-vaccinated group had none. Now, all right, that's just one study in Japan. But last week... Well,
a study of 20 million people.
22 million people, yeah.
It's not a bad study.
Last week, a very smart statistician in Australia sent me his paper that he's just publishing, so I won't mention all the details. But what he was able to show was that about 3 months after every splurge of a vaccine booster, mortality went up. And that's exactly the timing the Japanese found. They found that the peak mortality was 100 days after the after vaccination, whatever the vaccine whatever it had. Then so there's this amazing consistency now that's starting to come. Remembering that the Australian government had an inquiry into excess deaths and said there's nothing in it. It's all due to COVID. I mean, I tell you.
It's just, I mean,
there you go. And then we've got another one. This is on virus manipulation. I thought this was a very interesting video. You could tell we're kind of hitting on the vaccine COVID mask theme a little bit. Maybe not on masks. I hit on that in the last video. Thank God I didn't get banned again on YouTube. But let's get this on virus manipulation now.
Vous êtes arrivé à certaines conclusions.
Alors, nous sommes arrivés à la conclusion qu'effectivement, il y avait eu une manipulation au sujet de ce virus.
C'est-à-dire?
eh bien, qu'une partie, je ne dis pas le total, n'est-ce pas, mais il y a un modèle qui est évidemment le virus classique, et là c'était un modèle surtout venant de la chauve-souris, mais à ce modèle on a par-dessus ajouté des séquences notamment du VIH, le virus du sida.
Mais quand vous dites on a ajouté, qui a ajouté?
Moi je ne sais pas.
Mais c'est pas naturel, c'est ce que vous voulez dire?
Non, ce n'est pas naturel, c'était un travail de professionnel, un travail de biologiste moléculaire. C'est un travail très minutieux, on peut dire d'horloger, on peut dire au niveau des séquences.
Mais dans quel but?
Dans quel but, ça n'est pas clair. Moi, j'expose, si vous voulez, mon travail, c'est d'exposer les faits, c'est tout.
Je ne suis pas sûr de comprendre tout ce que vous dites. C'est-à-dire que dans ce virus, il y a une part de VIH?
Voilà, c'est ça. Le matériel génétique du virus est un long ruban d'ARN, n'est-ce pas? Comme de l'ADN, mais c'est de l'ARN. Et dans ce long ruban, à une certaine place, on a fixé des séquences petites de VIH. Et ces séquences petites ne sont pas petites pour ne rien vouloir dire. Elles ont la possibilité de modifier, par exemple, ce qu'on appelle des sites antigéniques. C'est-à-dire, si on veut faire un vaccin, on peut très bien modifier la protéine qui est exposée pour le vaccin par une petite séquence venant d'un autre virus.
Mais vous êtes certain de ça? Parce qu'on a dit que le bruit a couru, que c'était d'une origine humaine, finalement, et ça a été ensuite réfuté par la plupart des autorités scientifiques, quand même.
Il y a quand même une volonté d'étouffement, si vous voulez. Les travaux, nous ne sommes pas les premiers. Un groupe de chercheurs indiens, très, très renommés, avait publié de la même chose. On les a forcés à rétracter.
Et on les a forcés comment?
C'est-à-dire, c'est annulé. Il y a, si vous regardez leur publication, vous avez une grande bande annulée parce que...
Mais ce que vous dites là, la plupart des scientifiques disent le contraire, quand même.
De moins en moins. De moins en moins. Si vous voulez, ceci est arrivé au début de cette année, et on voit de plus en plus de travaux qui suggèrent, mais moi je suis, on peut dire, hors d'âge. Je suis prix Nobel et je peux travailler librement. J'ai donc aucune pression sur moi qui peut agir.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci.
Okay, the next one is, I don't know if you follow along. I like Miranda Devine. Most people that appear on Fox News, I think they're like Jack Keane or Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, I mean, most of them are airheads or lunatics. But Miranda Devine, she does appear on Fox News. And I tell you what, I've always liked her. If you didn't know, she wrote the book Laptop from Hell. I've never read the book, but I bet it's really good about Hunter Biden's laptop. But she put together this Fauci Lies montage. Now I want you to, knowing what we know now after Tulsi Gabbard revealed everything, I want you to watch how smooth Fauci was in his lies and how he was able to convince so many people of so many things that were evil. Let's watch that video now.
It likely jumped species from an animal reservoir into humans and now is spreading among humans. The mutations that it took to get to the point where it is now is totally consistent with a jump of a species from an animal to a human.
Are you calling for the closure of the wet markets?
I think they should shut down those things right away. I mean, it boggles my mind, because what we're going through right now is a direct result of that.
And you have animals that come out of the wild that are sold at these open, what they call them, wet markets, where people buy these things for festive dinners or what have you. So there's every reason to believe that jumping of species from an animal reservoir occurred.
I am of the point of view that I still think the most likely etiology of this pathogen in Wuhan was from a laboratory, escaped.
So Dr. Redfield was mentioning that he was giving an opinion as to a possibility. But again, there are other alternatives, others that most people hold by. That the most likely origin is a natural origin from an animal reservoir to human. What they did is they cleaned out the markets as soon as it turned out that it was clear that there were clusters coming from the market, which, in typical fashion, I think trying to make sure that things don't get pointed to them, they probably got rid of the animals that were the intermediary hosts there.
The place of origin was not within the market itself.
No, I don't think you could say that. I don't think you can say that. I think you could say we don't know how and where it originated. There are wet markets in Wuhan that are ample opportunity for a virus to jump, but more likely that it's a natural occurrence from an animal reservoir to a human.
So it came from a wet market in the same place where there's this huge lab that does all the kind of development of exactly what this thing is. That's some coincidence.
It's a coincidence, but there are so many labs all over China that have both labs and wet markets. If it were in Beijing or Shanghai, you'd be saying the same thing. You have a coincidence. There are no lab leaks that have led to pandemics. So there have been accidents in a lab that happens intermittently. We've had experiences with that in modern times recently. But there have never been a situation where a virus escaped from a lab that's a brand new virus that no one has ever seen before that led to a pandemic. That has not happened.
All right. The next video is very close to my heart. Okay? It's amazing how people have selective memory. Back during the COVID crisis, my wife wanted me to get the jab. And as I've told you in previous videos, I got the anthrax vaccine when I was over in Kuwait, and it almost killed me. So I told her, I said, there's no way in hell I'm getting an experimental vaccine with a new mRNA technology that we know nothing about, and I can't even sue anybody if I have an adverse effect to it. No way, no how. So she threw me out of the bedroom. That's my ex-wife now. You know why she's my ex-wife. We passed the entrance to the picnic table, unfortunately, unless, yeah, that's not it. We'll have to come around to the other side, the back entrance, I call it. Anyway, she threw me out of the bedroom, told me I had to sleep in the other room because I wouldn't get the jab. And so now, like I said, she was over the other day and I was helping her with her computer. And I showed her that Tulsi Gabbard video, and she goes, well, that's just the way it is. And I'm like looking at her like, you hypocrite. Do you remember when you were on my ass to get the jab and I wouldn't do it? That's one of the reasons we got divorced, by the way. That was a huge factor in our divorce. So Fauci actually broke up my marriage. So this next video is very close to my heart. Let's watch this unvaccinated video.
This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
A pandemic of the unvaccinated.
This is an epidemic that's occurring in the unvaccinated.
We're seeing a pandemic among the unvaccinated.
This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Pandemic of the unvaccinated.
This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
We have a pandemic among the non-vaccinated. We have a pandemic because of the unvaccinated.
We could have had this under control. We were well on our way. And the only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed. are the unvaccinated.
We've got to shun folks. We've got to shun people into getting vaccinated.
We need to shun those that refuse to get vaccinated.
The unvaccinated people have put us in the position that we're in now, and it is not a good place.
The only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people.
Just 36% of the people in this county are vaccinated. Every seat is full. No social distancing or masks.
It's stupid. Dangerous and stupid.
You got to start telling people, if you don't get vaccinated, you can't come into this office or this place of business. If you don't get vaccinated, you can't come to work. If you don't get vaccinated, you can't come into this gym. If you don't get vaccinated, you can't come into this, get onto this airplane.
All right. So I'm glad we gave that a good introduction. We do have some good things coming about. We got some Republican states that may be banning mRNA vaccines. I wish they would take a look at all vaccines, but personally, like Robert Kennedy's trying to do. But at least we're making some progress. Now, I heard, I don't know where, I don't remember where I saw it, but they were saying they're going to put mRNA in the flu shot. Now, I no longer get a flu shot. I'll never get a flu shot ever again. But especially if they put mRNA technology in a flu shot, that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. Let's watch this video on banning mRNA vaccines.
The vaccine turns out it's back in the news.
Republican Party leaders on the Space Coast are minutes away from officially calling on the governor and other state leaders to ban mRNA-based COVID vaccines immediately. I-Team Chief Investigator Mike Magnoli has more on what exactly is going on. Mike.
Good evening, everybody. Well, in their own words, the leaders of Brevard County's GOP say that they believe the vaccines are a biological weapon. As you say, this is the executive committee of the party in Brevard. They haven't hit send on this letter yet, but that vote coming up at 6:30, and I'm told it's fairly likely going to pass. If it does, they're asking state leadership to make it illegal to give or to take mRNA vaccines in Florida. In this 4-page letter, complete with footnotes, Brevard County Republicans cite sources which led them to a stunning conclusion. Here it is in their own words. Government agencies, media, and tech companies, and other corporations have committed enormous fraud by claiming COVID-19 injections are safe and effective. Strong and credible evidence has recently been revealed that COVID-19 and COVID-19 injections are biological and technological weapons. If approved, this letter will be sent to Tallahassee at a time when a grand jury, requested by Governor DeSantis, is investigating those very same vaccines. That grand jury's job is to determine whether pharmaceutical giants who brought the mRNA vaccines to market broke any laws and should face charges. It's already illegal to require anyone to get the COVID vaccine in Florida, but if state leaders go along with Brevard's request, no one in Florida would be allowed to get those vaccines. Today, the federal government sent a very different letter to drug companies, calling on them to make the COVID vaccines cheaper and more accessible, anticipating an increase in demand come flu season. The Brevard County Republicans gathering right now. That vote is expected sometime during the 6 o'clock hour, but I can tell you there is major support for this going forward.
All right. We're getting towards the end here, unless I get some more news later on. We got one more video. It's about a 10-minute video. It's kind of long, but it's Tulsi Gabbard, once again, my hero, talking about Barack Obama and how he committed treason. She goes into details. I don't know when this video was made, because the last two videos she made one was on the biolabs, and then the second one was on Fauci. So this must have been early on in her tenure as the DNI, head of intelligence. But let's watch that 10-minute video now.
I'm going to go over the key findings from the House Intelligence Report, which investigated the claims that were made by an intelligence community assessment ordered by President Obama and published in January of 2017.
First, Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton until after her potential and likely victory. The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts, like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess quote-unquote Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous. The intelligence community assessment omitted reliably sourced information, such as how some Russian intelligence officials were quote-unquote planning for candidate Hillary Clinton's victory, while others assessed neither Trump nor Clinton would respect Russia's interests. As was reflected in the ODNI documents that we released on Friday, multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee its first post-election classified briefing, in which there was no mention of Putin aspiring to elect Trump by either agency. The Presidential Daily Brief, drafted on December 8th of 2016, stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted vote counts. This document was pulled just hours before it was to be published due to quote-unquote new guidance. If it had been published, it would have been briefed to both President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump. On December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called to gather President Obama's senior national security officials, which included CIA Director Brennan, then Obama DNI James Clapper, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the President Obama. It directed senior intelligence community agency heads and created an intelligence community assessment limited to just 5 analysts, using one principal drafter. This is not something that occurs in the normal path of producing an intelligence community assessment that reflects the views across the intelligence community. The production of this intelligence community assessment was subject to unusual directives directly from the president and senior political appointees, especially the former director of the CIA, John Brennan. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report also shows how later that same day, on December 9th, Brennan ordered the publication of quote-unquote substandard reporting on Russian activities, which had previously been withheld from publication of prior assessments because the information was judged, quote, to have not met long-standing publication standards. Some of the information later used in the Obama-ordered assessment over the objections of veteran CIA officers was, quote-unquote, unclear or from unknown sources. The Intelligence Committee's oversight report reveals that CIA Director Brennan overruled senior CIA officers who challenged the Obama-ordered intelligence assessment, stating, quote, we don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. Yet, the Obama-directed assessment was published on January 6, 2017, which explicitly stated, quote, we assess Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances when possible by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him, end of quote. The CIA and FBI, then led by John Brennan and James Comey, expressed high confidence in this judgment, while the NSA expressed moderate confidence. Yet, as the report we released today shows, the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, did not cite any report where Putin indicated helping Trump win was an objective. The opposite is true. With regards to the Steele dossier, we now know that one of the source documents that the Obama administration used in the creation of this intelligence assessment in January of 2017 was none other than the discredited, unverified Steele dossier. The House Intel report states, quote, contradicting public claims by then CIA Director Brennan that the dossier was not in any way incorporated into this intelligence assessment. The dossier was referenced in the intelligence assessment's main body text and further detailed in a 2-page assessment annex. John Brennan lied, and he denied using this dossier in this intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered because he knew it was discredited. It was a politically motivated, manufactured document. He directed senior CIA officials to use it anyway. CIA officer told the House Intelligence Committee staff as they investigated this, quote, the director of the CIA, John Brennan, refused to remove it, and when confronted with the dossier's many flaws, responded, quote, yes, but doesn't it ring true? Even the bipartisan Senate Select Committee on Intelligence report published in 2020 criticized the FBI's handling of the Steele dossier, noting its completely unverified nature and purposeful sidestepping of intelligence community procedures in its use. Now, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, and others, including their mouthpieces in the media, knowingly lied as they repeated the contrived narrative that was created in this January 2017 intelligence community assessment with high confidence as though it were fact. John Brennan, as CIA director, stated in a memo to his agency staff in December of 2016, saying, quote, there is strong consensus among us on the scope, nature, and intent of Russian interference in our presidential election. This was reported by NBC News, confirming that Brennan, along with James Clapper and James Comey, agreed with the CIA's assessment that Russia intervened to help Trump win the presidency. As Obama's Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper was tasked with overseeing the creation of this assessment in January of 2017 by President Obama, and he expressed confidence in its findings. In a 2018 interview with the Harvard Gazette, he talked about how he provided Trump with the same classified assessment that President Obama received, which included the high confidence judgment that Putin directly ordered the hacking and election interference. Clapper then went on to add, I think they, the Russians, actually influenced the outcome. This is a brief summary of the details that you'll find within the House Majority Staff's report in their investigation into the Obama-directed January 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment. That leads us to the very same conclusion that we announced in the release of our documents on Friday. The implications of this are far-reaching and have to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. It has to do with an outgoing president taking action to manufacture intelligence, to undermine and usurp the will of the American people in that election, and launch what would be a years-long coup against the incoming President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Okay, glad we got all that out of the way. I'm sure I'll think of something on the way back. Just remember, I am on the BitChute at the Burn Report on YouTube, and the Burn channel on Rumble. I'm getting near the picnic table. Thank God. This is the halfway point in my hike. I got plenty of water in my backpack, trust me. I'm gonna sit there. I'll probably drink the whole damn thing. Oh man, it's hot, hotter than Hades, man. Peace out, stay free, stay frosty. Yeah, I completely messed up when I was talking about John Mearsheimer and what he said, that the Iranians probably didn't take Donald Trump seriously when he threatened their lives, that they wouldn't make it back to Iran alive. And he said that they I don't know where he would get that. We killed 168 little schoolgirls at the beginning of the war. We killed the supreme leader. We killed the new supreme leader's grandson and his wife and his family. We blew up a lot of the Iranian, generals and stuff. We killed the first set of Iranian negotiators. With all of that in Donald Trump's background, and when Donald Trump says you're not going to make it back to Iran alive, I think I would take that threat very seriously. So John Mearsheimer, I know you'll never watch this video, but I completely disagree with you on that topic right there. The other thing I forgot to tell you about, if you haven't seen it already, was J.D. Vance. I couldn't believe it. He said the quiet part out loud. He said, Israel, everybody in the world hates you. The only friend you got is the United States and Donald Trump. Don't be insulting Donald Trump. So anyway, and I already told you my belief that Israel is going to ignore Donald Trump. They're not going to pull out of Lebanon, I can tell you that. Now, I haven't heard anything more on the ceasefire, but that's not the terms that Iran in the first. I mean, it's kind of like Article 1 of the Constitution. In the very first line of the Memorandum of Understanding, they demanded that Israel pull out of Lebanon and quit bombing Lebanon and killing people. And like I said, Israel told everybody in the world, hell no, we're going to destroy all of Lebanon. If I ever find the video, maybe I'll put it in my next video of Ben Gvir. It's actually up on Judge Napolitano. That's where I saw it. You can watch it by Ben Gvir on Judge Napolitano if you want. Don't believe me. All right, man. If I think of something else, that'll be it. With the sun out, it's hard for me to scroll through any news on X. So probably won't have any new news. And like I said, everybody's just posting about Tulsi. It's one problem with X is everybody repeats the same news about a zillion times, and you're like, look, man, can't you come up with something original, something different than just posting and reposting and rewording, what Tulsi Gabbard has said about Fauci, Anyway, all right, just I guess I shouldn't worry about it since I'm suspended, huh? Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out, like I said, I worked with ChatGPT. I'm going to try again in maybe like a week or a month, see if I can get a second appeal in there. I don't know if they're going to allow it or not, but we'll give it a try. Maybe there's some other way to contact X and see what I did wrong. I wish they would just tell me outright. They did give you an explanation. Let me just explain this right now. They said they said it violated the rules, and then they gave it this category of, specific category. But in that category, there's like 16 different things, maybe 20 that it could have been. And I'm like reading them all. I'm going, nope, didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that. And then the spam one was, like I said, was the only one I thought that might have come close. Maybe they thought I was spamming. I don't know why they would. That's the only one I could think of. All the rest of them were, do you run scripts to send out posts to people or something like that? I'm like, no, I wouldn't even know how to run a script to send posts to people. I imagine it can be scripted on a computer. And then, of course, there was a bunch of them, I have never even cussed on X to the best. Well, in my videos, I say a cuss word every now and then. I don't know, man. Obviously, it's been bothering me. Well, I'll quit. I'll shut up about it. When I introduced the video for about a week now, or the next couple of videos, I'll just tell you I'm no longer on X. I'm suspended, and that'll be it. I won't go into conversation about it anymore. Oh, yeah. I forgot one more thing. I was watching Colonel McGregor on Daniel Davis Deep Dive, as a matter of fact, and I'm gonna tell you what. You have a few trusted sources. And also Trump said the quiet part out loud. He says that we're going to be in a world of hurt here in less than 4 weeks. So, the predictions are $150 to $200 a barrel. That means $7 for a gallon of gas at the pump. That means everything's going to go up. The diesel's going to be rare. They're saying there's not enough jet fuel for both civilian flights and military flights. And I guess the refining process is you can either make jet fuel or diesel. And the federal government, they don't care about you or me. So I bet they're going to make jet fuel. So that means there's going to be a shortage of diesel gas. So once again, stock up, stock up, stock up. So, and I always put my money where my mouth is. I put in another order to Walmart that I'm picking up on Thursday. And I noticed I was getting a little bit low on Clorox. So I ordered 6 bottles of Clorox. My toilet bowl cleaner, I was getting low on that. When I say low, I mean I had enough for a couple of months, but I want more than that. So I ordered a bunch of that. And anyway, I want you to take my assignment. Just like I gave my ex-wife a to-do list for her computer. Start looking around your house. If you've only got 1 bottle of Clorox, order 6 more. If you only got 1 thing of laundry detergent, order 6 more. If you only got 1 thing of Pam, or I use, I use Great Value with, God damn it, I can't remember. Anyway, it's, what's the oil? With a different oil in it that's good for you. All right, so anyway, that's it. But I just thought of that because if they're right, things are going to get tough, man. Things are going to get tough. And then, of course, I've always told you to pay down your debt. On one of my loans, I only owe $1,000 more. So that'll actually be paid off next month. And then I've only got 1 other loan on the windows. And that's down to about $13,000 to $12,000. And then, of course, I have 0 balance on everything else, except I do have a loan on the house. But it's not on the house. It's a loan out of my whole life policy because one of the agreements of the divorce was I had to pay off the mortgage. And the only way I could do that was to take a loan out against my whole life policy. I mean, you might be asking, why do you maintain a whole life policy? Well, the paid up additions in that thing, the original policy was worth $100,000. Now it's worth about $160,000 with paid up additions. So, I want, my legacy is I'm donating all that money to the community here in Marion County to put up an obstacle course at one of the local parks. So that's why I keep that whole life policy. I don't have anybody to leave it to. I got no kids. All my relatives are dead. Everybody I knew in the Marine Corps is dead. Everybody's dead. All right, man. Peace out. Stay free, but stock up, stock up, stock up.
Gunboat shadow tankers in the narrow blue. One spark could cut 20% of the world in two. ceasefire whispers fade as the blockade takes hold. MV Tusker disabled, her engines growing cold.
Ticking closer, no time left to lose.
Tensions rising, words ignite across the wires. Warning shots echo as the stakes climb higher.
USS Bruins fires on the engine room tonight. Marion's fast, roping from the Tripoli in the fight. Hormuz horizon, ships turn back, skies fade to black, jet fuel running dry. There's no turning back. Lufthansa grounded, KLM feels the strain.
Ryanair feels the sting. Empty terminals whisper through the rain. If the conflict burns on, shaped by your wordless hands. Global forces pull strings while the people make their stand. Your wings in the air, the world begins to unfurl. Madman at the wheel, driving us from this world. And the prices rise while the orders fly. Oil climbing higher, Brent near 96 once more. Europe counts the hours, 6 weeks of kerosene left in store. Refineries fall quiet, trucks stall in the glow. One narrow strait decides how far the whole world goes. Food shelves growing empty, cargo reroutes round the Cape. A calculated game, turning crisis into shape. This is the brink, history's final choice. The greatest shock the modern world has ever known. IEA warns of crisis deeper than seeds already sown. From Chabahar to the Gulf of Oman, the seizure made it clear. Iran calls it on piracy, retaliation draws near. Deluge cargo suspected, the ship now in U.S. hands. Talks collapsing in Pakistan across the shifting sands. Trump claims victory, says he prohibited bombing Lebanon. Yet the blockade stays in full force, his madman plan. And the spider keeps weaving tighter every day. Then the shortages deepen when the shelves run fully bare. Medicine disappears, hospitals fill with quiet despair. Blackouts sweep the cities, factories fall to dust. Riots spark in shadows as the final chains combust. Winter brings a colder dark with no fuel left to burn. Fields lie empty, children learn what hunger means in turn. Those who hoard the last reserves watch the masses come apart. unraveling beneath their careful game. Years unfold in silence if the strait stays closed too long. Economies unravel, supply lines break and yawn. Schools shut down forever, hospitals lose their light. Nations turn on neighbors in the never-ending night. Globalists reshape the map while the old world fades away, profiting from the chaos in the breaking of the day. Famine spreads like wildfire, migration floods the shore. Civilization fractures, what was built crumbles to the floor. Madman tweets thunder while the world holds its breath. Hormuz horizon, ships turn back, skies fade to black, jet fuel running dry. There's no turning back. Airlines cut their routes, grounded dreams ignite. Summer slowly turns to ashes in the endless night. If the conflict burns on, shaped by reckless hands, global forces take hold while the old world slowly stands. No wings in the air, the world begins to unfurl. Madman at the wheel, driving us from this world. What if the tanks run empty and the lights all fade to black? No flights across the oceans, no simple way to turn back. Cities slow then crumble, anger rises in the streets. From distant orders to the silence at our feet, the words like distant thunder, threats of worlds undone, pawn against pawn beneath the rising sun. USS spewing fires on the engine room, Marines fast roping from the Tripoli. MV Tuska now in U.S. custody, could become spoils of war. Iran calls it armed piracy, blatant aggression, we will respond. Europe has maybe 6 weeks of jet fuel left, KLM cutting 160 flights, Lufthansa and Ryanair feeling the strain, Brent hovering near 96, oil markets in turmoil, precious metals holding a safe haven firm, ceasefire hanging by a thread, talks collapsing. This could be the spark before the last spark flies. Hormuz horizon, So before the last plane falls, silent from the sky, before the last city flickers out and says goodbye,
Before the final chain snap and we lose all that we built, let the warmongers step back, let wiser voices tilt. Open the strike once more, let the tankers freely flow, before the fragile world we share collapses from the blow. Our planet's deeply connected, too precious to destroy. Just peace above all else, it's our only path of joy. Hormuz horizon, let the healing light begin. Ceasefire now, before the end sets out. Hormuz horizon.
peace in the strait, or we all fall in.